before we begin, Kaylee, I need to address the not Ernie Hudson elephant in the room.
It's an elephant. It's pink and polka dotted and enormous.
So Gus's parents come back in this episode. Super exciting. And the very first thing we see is not Ernie Hudson as Gus's dad. In fact, this time we get Keith David, who I'm pretty sure reprises his role as Gus's dad later on in the series.
I want to say he does.
Yeah.
So we no longer have a Ghostbuster. We have Dr. Facilier himself from The Princess and the Frog. And that's all I can see when I see Keith David.
That voice. We also have, obviously, Mom come with Dad, and that, again, is...
Felicia Rashad.
The beautiful Felicia Rashad. Thank you. I always mess up her name. And then we meet another family member of Gus's, whose name is Fawn Chambers Watkins.
Who is playing Joy Guster. So she looks really familiar. She's been in a lot of stuff. She was in White Chicks as Damon Wayans' significant other. Yeah. She was also in Epic Movie, The Extraordinary Life of Benjamin Button, or whatever the heck, the case of Benjamin, whatever, The Curious Case, or whatever that movie is. She was in that. They reference that she usually works on the holidays, which is why it's so special for her to be in town. So we get to meet Joy, along with revisiting Gus's parents, which is fun.
I got to give a shout out to my mom right here. So Fawn Chambers Watkins, okay, 3 names. She goes by 3 names. When I was in either late high school or early college, my mom and we went and saw Hairspray in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And it was very good. It was very exciting.
Oh, and so I know where this is going.
We immediately look at the cast list because that's how we roll. And my mother points at 2 people on the cast list and she goes, "You see that? 3 names? That means they're going to be good." And I just laughed at her, but they were fantastic. So
they stole the show every time they open their mouths, right?
Yeah, but so 3 names means, according to my mama, that you're going to be good. So, and Joy doesn't let down in this episode.
It's really fun. I can't wait to get into it.
Speaking of Joy, shall we start the episode?
It's showtime.
This is...
To the Blueberry!
I am Alexis, and I'm a real-life Gus.
I'm Kaylee, and I'm a real-life Shawn.
And this is a Psych rewatch podcast that Kaylee and I decided to start hosting because we needed a reason to talk together every week.
Yeah, and we get to hang out now and talk about our favorite show, and it's been bomb so far, so we're going to keep it going.
Yeah. So why I ended the opening with Speaking of Joy is because this is season 3, episode 9,
Christmas Joy. Woo! Yeah, when I saw that right above the synopsis, I was like, wow, it's all about her.
It's really good.
And we start, as we so often do, with a flashback to 1987.
My favorite part about that flashback is that we start on the Christmas tree in Henry's house, and they have a starfish on top of their tree.
I did not see that either time I watched this.
Oh my gosh, it's so cute.
Sad. Oh, well, it's Christmas morning, Alexis, and little baby Shawn is creeping down the stairs, all excited.
And Henry is going to test him because that's what Henry does.
Yeah, it looks like Henry is sort of caught in the act of something, and so he plays it off by whoa, 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 buddy, slow down here. You have a job to do first.
He wants to know what went down here last night.
Yeah, recreate it.
Yeah, Shawn does his little baby psychic thing, and he's like, okay. Santa came in, he sat down, he ate his milk and cookies. He put the presents under the tree, and then something spooked him, and he ran out.
Yeah, it pans over to the window, so he ran out the window. And Henry says, yeah, it's a real pity because he didn't get to finish putting together your new bike. Maybe you woke up too early and caught him off guard or something.
I love it. I have a question, though.
Okay.
Where is Mrs. Spencer?
Well, clearly they couldn't get the actress, so she's not even mentioned.
I feel like if it's Christmas morning and we're putting together the kids' bike, that's something we do together.
Yeah,
Or
I have
or
no
at the very
idea.
least, like she's in the kitchen making coffee or something. But like straight up, no, it's just
Or like
Henry and Shawn.
they're flirting in the living room, exchanging their own gifts before the kid
Yeah.
gets up. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not a parent, so.
And scene. No, that I feel that way too. Okay, so back to present day, and Shawn
Where's
is
the
like,
psych office?
this is very important. We have to match the gifts to the individual.
Yeah, Gus is mad because Shawn has taken too long. Where were you? But Shawn has a box. I wrote down that he had a box of like decorations because it's like covered in tinsel.
Kind of, yeah. But
But then he's unloading. Yeah,
not decorations out of it. He pulls out his picture from Dislodged,
lodge portrait.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second thing he pulls out is, in fact, a pineapple with a nice, beautiful bow on it.
Yeah. He's like, you can't cut corners, Gus. You must customize to the individual.
Which he
And-
does by putting Santa hats on Halloween decorations.
Yeah, they creepily shudder their jaws and their pumpkins, and it's terrible. Gus says, Joy's flight's coming in. She's home for the holidays. It's a big deal because she's usually working. She travels all over the world, apparently. And Shawn says that's exactly why he never went to law school.
I'm sure that's why.
Gus thinks it's, the school part. But
Enter a creepy little girl. Okay, I had to talk about this creepy little girl.
she is creepy. I wrote, small child.
So, I'm sure you never watched it, but in like the early 2000s, mid to late 2000s, I don't know, sometime in there. Wait, no, in the late 2000s, early 2010s, okay? So, there was a show on Lifetime called Blood Ties. And this little girl played the villain in one of those episodes where she was a telepath who only used her powers for evil. And
I
so
never saw that.
every time I see her, she's a creepy little girl.
I mean, she's not creepy in this episode, just objectively. Because she's, like, putting on a fake lisp. Like,
So
it's
much.
that, like, Cindy Brady type of thing.
Are you Mr. Psych?
I'm Mr. Shawn, and this is Scrooge Jones. Who are you?
She is there because she needs them to help get Santa out of jail. She
Yeah.
doesn't have a lot of money to pay them, only $1.38.
What else do you have? Her name is Brittany, by the way. I call her Brit, like, the whole time.
I don't catch her name until a lot longer, and so I'll stick with Brit. I like that. Apparently, the story is Santa was arrested, and she needs to make sure that he gets out by Christmas Eve so he can deliver the toys.
Yeah, the police dragged him away from Santa's village in Solvang.
Gus said this is a police matter.
And Shawn says, we never interfere in police work. And then she's like, I understand. And instantly the waterworks.
It's terrible, terrible fake crying.
Shawn goes, What does one do when a child cries at you?
I don't know what Shawn does, but Gus also cries and then caves.
Yeah, no. He literally says, you cave. So then we're apparently on the case, but we end up at the Guster's house.
Of course, we gotta meet Joy. Enter Dad, Mom, and Joy. Again, not Ernie Hudson. Frowny face.
Not
but it's okay.
Ernie Hudson. Last
Joy
year, where
is-
was she? She's a lawyer. Sorry,
Oh.
that's what I wrote.
Joy is super excited to hear all about Psych and how they work.
Yeah, and she says, but since when are you psychic? Like, when did that happen?
The boys look at each other.
High school. You just looked at each other.
Look at each other again.
No. You just did it again.
She just straight up lawyers them. Like, asking all these questions, pointing out all of the problems in their stories.
And they say, this is not a trial. We're not on trial here. She says, why are you both striking defensive poses?
And then there's a lot of them talking over one another. Something Christmas, something. Yeah, it's a lot.
But Gus's dad, Keith David, says he has to go. He's got to go to Raytheon to work. He's covering the night shift.
Exit Daddy-O, exit Mommy-O. And Gus said, here, I'll carry your bags upstairs for you. And then he can't lift them up.
She's like, you can just get it later. But he goes upstairs with, like, her carry-on. And then they watch him go all the way upstairs, all the way out of sight. And then Joy and Shawn pounce on each other's faces.
Macking. Christmas music macking. So much macking.
And then credits. Christmas credits.
I love the Christmas credits. I always have.
These are epic Christmas credits.
Yeah. When we cut back from the credits, there's more macking.
But they're on the couch now.
They stop. Oh, we can't do this again. Because apparently it happened once before.
Oh, it's a one-time fling 10 years ago. And it's like their secret hookup. And they have to hide it from Gus. And Joy's not really having it. She's just like, it's clear she wants to get back to macking.
My notes say Joy wants it. And I can't blame her. Like, I'm going to be real.
Well, Shawn says, we have to fight it. And Joy says, speak for yourself.
Gus comes down. They kind of, oh, hey.
And Gus happily stomps his way down conveniently so they hear him coming.
He said, since you're so interested in Psych, you should spend as much time with me and Shawn as possible.
Shawn looks less than thrilled.
But Joy looks very thrilled.
So we go to the SPPD. And Gus says, this is where the magic happens.
They have some banter that ends with them realizing that Gus repeats himself when he's trying to seem impressive.
Did you catch when Joy tries to hold Shawn's hand?
No.
Yeah, she fully, like, tries to slip her hand into his, and he, like, extricates her fingers while she's talking to Gus.
Oh my gosh, I need to go back and rewatch that.
Yeah. So, she's trying to be all touchy-touchy on the low. But, Shawn touches himself about something he said. And then Gus tells him he can't do that. And he goes, you're bad. And Gus is even madder about that. And then he says, you're not mad at it, though. You know what you're saying? It's like a whole bit. I love it.
Here comes Chief Vic, and she's like, hey, I didn't hire you. Why are you here?
They're like, oh, we're just showing around Gus's sister. She's like, hey, you brought a guest?
You are our guests, so you can't have your own guests.
And they're like, she just wanted to see what we do here. And she's like, cool. This is as far as she goes. You're barred from, like, the rest of the precinct. Thanks.
There is a moment in there where Chief Vic gets this sick burn that's something like, oh, how long have you known them? And Joy said, oh, well, I've known Shawn since high school. And Chief Vic goes, oh, well, then you pretty much know how it works.
Oh, no. She literally says, have you ever seen a movie about high school? Then you already know what they do.
Oh, Chief Vic burn.
Oh. Yeah, and I don't think Joy really knows how to take that. Like, she's like, is that a real insult or is this just negging? Like,
maybe a little bit of both.
So the boys are like, wait here a beat. We just need to check in about something. So they walk over to Jules. She's
passing out these files and they kind of just, ask her about their Santa.
And she's like, yeah, sorry, it's been so hectic here. That must have been the guy brought in from the fight at the village. We sent down a paddy wagon. There was a fight. And everyone's in holding until we figure out who assaulted the guy who ended up in the hospital.
They get down to the holding cell, and immediately there's a dude that looks like Santa.
But he's not him, so we have to wait for him to move before we see this really sad-looking hangdog guy just sort of slumming it in the corner.
I called him a maybe drunk guy real Santa. I know he wasn't drunk, but that was kind of the vibe I was getting.
Yeah. He's really Santa. But Shawn immediately sees that the guy who was the Santa from the fight has bruising on his forearms, like nothing wrong with his knuckles or his hands. It's clear he was being defensive in the altercation.
But there's another guy in the holding cell who has this bracelet on that has, like, Hebrew script on it.
And we find out in just a moment that it says he's a master of Krav Maga.
Gus is like, since when do you read Hebrew?
I worked at that Hasidic deli for a whole summer. Oh, Shlomo.
They tell Juliet that Shawn can see hands fast as lightning. It's more than a little bit frightening.
He says upsetting.
So the caption said upsetting, but I still heard frightening.
I heard upsetting. I even rewound it. I heard
Really?
upsetting. He says that's a little bit frightening in the next scene. It's super weird. He says upsetting right here.
It's fascinating how brains work, because my brain knew that line was a little bit frightening, and so it filled it in as such.
Well, Gus instantly goes, Kung Fu fighting? So there was a rhyme happening. But, yeah, no. I definitely saw and heard upsetting. And I'll tell you when we get to it.
Okay. So the dude admits, yes, he was the one who knocked the guy unconscious, but only because he was defending Santa.
I just wrote, yay, confess. And Juliet says, wow, this is such a gift. You saved us hours of processing.
The boys fist bump, and then they do the peanuts dance.
Yeah. And there's a fella in the holding cell who looks embarrassed for them. And they even had their little fist bump moment. So we already got one of those. It's not our last one of this episode.
Nope.
And then when they go back upstairs, Lassie is chatting up Joy on the bench.
What's your deal with people's sisters? First Vic, now mine? And aren't you still married?
Whoa, Guster, stand down. Sheesh, we were just having a conversation.
Joy's all like, listen, I may be your sister, but I do what I want.
Shawn pointedly says, hey, Lassiter, isn't Dobson calling for you from over there? So we get a Dobson reference.
I love it. Lassie walks away, and Gus is like, listen, you can date whoever you want as long as they're not my friend.
Well, in the next scene, we're walking out of the precinct, and Shawn is getting off the phone with someone called Garth, and he's like, you try saying that when it's looking up at you, meowing pitifully, all, wet and shivering and wanting food.
Okay, so this entire scene, do you think that it was all ad-libbed? Like, I know they had to get Shawn out of his apartment, but, like, who comes up with I rescued a stray cat who brought home fleas? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't completely ad-libbed because...
It wasn't completely, because then Shawn's like, yeah, maybe I got some fleas in my apartment, but they can't reasonably blame me for the entire building. And then we get this really creepy in unison. Are you ready?
Oh, I don't have this. Do it.
Oh. One adult female lays thousands of eggs. And that's when Shawn says, okay, that's a little bit frightening. He's like, I gotta find a place to crash. My dad's got his lodge buddies in town.
Joy's all, oh, come stay with us.
And he's like, no, Joy. And then Gus is like, don't be ridiculous. Just come stay.
They're all set. As they're walking out, they see Britt again. And she is straight up yelling at her dad, who happens to be the Santa.
I saved your butt this time, Daddy.
Now I only have 3 days left. And then, I don't know which of the boys said it, but one of them goes, she's a little con artist.
It was Gus. And then Shawn says, yeah, and I bet she had more than $1.38 on her, too.
So Juliet goes and looks this guy up. His name is Carl Wilcox, and he is a known con man. And Shawn puts what Britt said kind of in context and realizes that something must be going on December 24th, Christmas Eve.
Yes, because that's 3 days from now, apparently. Shawn taps her on the shoulder and just says a very soft thank you. And she just sort of gives this little gratified, you're welcome, as he walks away. It was like a very strange little moment they had.
We go to Santa's village.
In Solvang.
Okay,
I can't
so...
stop saying that word.
Wait, it's what?
It's Santa's village at the mall in Solvang.
Oh. Well, so I keep thinking about the Halloween episode, but I don't think we've recorded it yet. There's a Halloween episode where they go on a roller coaster and they find a body on the roller coaster, but the body's not there anymore.
I don't know when that one comes up.
But it's the same place. Like, that Halloween town is this Santa village.
Oh. Huh.
So, let's just remember that, and then eventually I know we'll see it. Okay, so I said it looks a lot like the Halloween Village. Okay. There are so many festivities going around, but ultimately we hear this guy say that you can have pictures that you take with Santa sent to your home address.
Okay, so there's a lot of instances of the boys this episode going, what? They just do it a lot this episode. And they first do it earlier, but right here they get into the village, they see some reindeer, and they're like, what? And then they've got elves, giant gingerbread men, and then some guys being like, yes, just tell us what address, and this package or that package, and these wallets, and that 8x10.
Shawn and Gus are like, we gotta go talk to Santa, so they cut line to interrogate him.
He's like, whoa, not here.
They go into the back, and they see little Brit again, and there's a whole bunch of smack talk that goes on between her and Shawn. I only got one line of it, which was, you have cooties on your face.
Well, he goes, did you steal that video game from a blind kid?
Why would a blind kid need a video game?
And that's when he gets all huffy and says the cootie line. And then Gus is like, dude, stop it. He goes, she started it. And Gus goes, you started it.
She's a little... and then Gus completely cuts him off and stops him from calling her a shut your mouth. They ask about the con that's supposed to be going on the 24th.
Yeah, completely give themselves away.
Dad Santa is like, maybe you guys are too smart for your own good. And then in his super con man reaction, just starts screaming, don't hit me! And
then he runs. So there's like a little chase scene, and then they catch up to him, and then Brittany starts crying, and then he's just like, he's like a male soccer player. He's just like flailing, like, oh no, I've been assaulted.
They end up being Shawn and Gus end up being taken out by the security at Santa's Village in the mall at Solving. And Shawn sees that address list that he had heard the guy talking about earlier.
Yeah, so he clocks in the computer while they're being escorted out by Ted, the security guy.
At the Gusters, the whole family is there, and Joy is in her, like, little nightgown and says goodnight to the guys.
And Shawn, I just wrote, Shawn says you get used to it. Oh, Gus is humiliated. Shawn says you get used to it, and Gus says, I don't want to. We were just thrown out of Santa's village at the mall.
Shawn feels like they're mocking them. And he makes a couple of pop culture references here about Rhett Butler and Ike Turner that we're, like, not going to repeat because they're not cool. But they decide it's time for bed and fist bump.
Yeah, lots of fist bumps and what's this episode.
I like it.
So, we get Shawn after he's gotten ready for bed. He's reading in bed. I don't even see what the book is. I would love to do a deep dive on any books that get shown in this show. But he's just like, oh, this is so dumb. And he, like, looks out of his room, and he creeps down the hallway, and he pauses at Joy's room, and then he's just like, no. And he goes into the bathroom across the hall instead.
And then Joy comes out, and she sneaks down the hall and goes into Shawn's bedroom.
So then Shawn flushes the toilet, comes out of the bathroom, just goes for it, and goes into Joy's room, which is now empty.
Gus hears all the commotion and comes out and is, like, looking around.
And his stripy pajamas.
Joy comes out of Shawn's room and immediately sees Gus and turns around and goes back into Shawn's room.
So then Gus turns towards that door, and then Shawn comes out of Joy's door, sees Gus, goes back in, shuts the door.
Gus is like, forget it, I'm going to bed.
So then Joy comes out of Shawn's room and goes to the bathroom.
Shawn comes out of Joy's room and goes back to Shawn's room.
And then Joy goes to her own room. At which point, Shawn comes back out and then creeps down the stairs thinking Joy went down there.
Like, literally calling for her. Joy! Joy! Why does he think that she's gone to the basement, which is where he ultimately ends up?
After he makes eye contact with the black wise man on the mantle.
Balthazar, we'll find that out later. Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta do this. Maybe Shawn really is psychic. So
I do that at the end of the episode, so thank you for doing it now.
This is one of those moments where he ends up creeping down to the basement for for literally no reason. Why would Joy go to the basement?
We've never seen the Guster basement.
But we end up down there, and conveniently that is when Dad is walking into the house.
They confront each other in the basement, and Shawn notices some stuff, and he starts to have a vision. And Keith David, as Mr. Guster, starts to duck and weave and like try to avoid Shawn's psychicness. It's ridiculous.
Finally, we find out that Dad was at the movies. He lost his job about a month ago, but he doesn't want everyone to worry because it's Christmas time. So right now he's going to interviews during the day and then spending most of his nights at coffee shops or at the movies, which is where he was tonight.
Yeah, and he's like, I would hate to think that you would betray me, so tell me that I'm right in thinking that this is just between you and me and that lamp over there.
What's his line?
So you're saying the lawn chair isn't trustworthy?
That's it. The scene ends at the psych office. Shawn is tired.
Gus is doing strategery and trying to figure out what, the crime could be and how they can get the jump on the con people, since now they've given themselves away as watching for the crime.
But Joy is ready for lunch.
Shawn is like, well, what if we go undercover or something like that, and they don't know it's us and we can snoop around. And Joy goes, I can help.
She's gonna do the sneaking for them, and she ultimately becomes this, sexy Mrs. Claus.
Oh, yeah. I guess I didn't get what she was supposed to be being, but she's helping out the Santa Village.
Yeah. While they're at the Santa Village, Shawn looks at Carl's file while they're hiring Joy.
And he's fully creeping out the lady hiring Joy. But he sees that Theodore, or Ted, the security guy, is listed as a reference in Carl's file.
That's a really good piece of information. But as Joy walks away, Shawn checks out her butt.
And Gus catches him.
He asks him what he's looking at, and Shawn said, that's a beautiful wreath.
I hear that.
All right, we get the intel. Carl seems like a cool dude. Carl Santa seems like a cool dude. He's a really good Santa.
Yeah, after Joy's first day, she's like, yeah, he doesn't just ask the kids what they want for Christmas. He's also asking them, how they're doing in school, what relatives they're visiting this Christmas.
And then Shawn has a flashback where he remembers that list of home addresses.
So he intuits something. We'll get to it later. Joy says, are you having a vision right now? And he gets all ruffled.
He goes, cold shower, baseball stats, my grandmother eating meatloaf. Well,
okay, so after she asks about the vision and he gets, ruffled, he says, it's just a small one, and she makes this, ooh, sound. And that's when he goes into, breakdown mode, and Gus is like, what is wrong with you?
Carl and Ted, Santa and security guard, are using the details that Carl is getting from the conversation with the kids to know which houses to rob, and they're cross-referencing that against the list that is being collected for the pictures. And once again, Shawn looks at Joy's butt.
And Gus is like, what are you looking at?
I don't remember what this one was.
It's like a little tree next to him. He was like, this cute little snowman. And Gus again goes, I hear that.
They bust into Santa's village at the mall at Saberton. I still don't know what it is.
Solvang.
Okay, there was a little office reference there.
Oh yeah, sorry. I had a glitch. The SBPD are on the scene at the mall at Solvang.
But no one else is.
Yeah, it's fully deserted, and Joy goes, "How often are you wrong about these things?"
Shawn said, surprisingly, not often. But Lassiter and Juliet are like, deuces. They're out. And Gus makes this comment about the nativity scene and said, as usual, they failed to make one of the wise men black.
I thought everybody knew about Balthazar.
Okay, again, I have to point it out. Balthazar was literally the demon king in the show about the three sister witches.
What?
Prue and Paige and...
Oh, Charmed.
Charmed. Balthazar was the king demon in Charmed. And he's also apparently a wise man who found Jesus.
I mean, it is an old-timey name.
Yeah, okay. Shawn kind of remembers that Balthazar was there, but now he's been replaced by a white guy.
So he goes over and pokes the new Balthazar's cheek.
He falls over, and all three of them scream like little girls.
And then Last Angels rush back onto the scene.
We're not dealing with con artists. We're dealing with murderers. Juliet gets like a really cool line there.
So then we're back at the SBPD, and Chief says, all right, Shawn, Gus, we really have to be ramping this up now. We want people to feel safe this holiday season.
Long story short, Carl's been brought in. Brittany's been put with Child Protective Services. But they can't figure out any link between Carl and the murderer. Mostly because Carl refuses to talk to anyone except for Shawn and Gus.
Yeah, and then I just read The Boys Are in Plaid and Stripes. Shawn has been in Squares and Stripes. Or the boys have been in Squares and Stripes all episode. Like, it's very happening. But in this one, we're Plaid and Stripes again. So they're in interrogation with Carl. And he's fully like, look, I'm going to confess to the long con, the whole Santa thing. We were trying to burgle people, but we would never murder. We're nonviolent. Like,
they didn't hurt people.
I wrote, Shawn psychs out about Ted. And that's where the we comes in.
Carl is afraid because whoever killed Ted might be coming after Brittany or him next. And he just doesn't want Brittany back in the system.
I'm like, what is that history? Woof.
But Shawn said, listen, we don't trust you as far as Gus can throw you.
And then he gets really weepy while he's explaining like how strongly he feels about this.
And then Gus gets really weepy because that's what Gus does. Shawn
can't handle it. He's just like, oh, fine. Are there any clues as to whom we should be looking at?
They owed a bookie $10,000.
I mean, $10,000 feels like small change to me, but whatever.
Also, dude's name is Frank.
And the guy playing him does not look like a Frank, but he says Frank hangs out at 2 bars, O'Neill's and the Wild Ox. So Shawn and Gus have to split up.
Figure out which one.
Conveniently.
Right. Shawn is at one of the bars and he finds Frank's and he introduces himself and then asks about Carl and Ted.
And he's like, what about those guys?
Ted is dead. Frank has essentially no emotions.
Yeah, but he didn't know that. Like, he's not shocked, he's not sad, he's like, that happened? And,
we get the number 1 rule of bookies here.
Well, Shawn says, it sends a message, doesn't it?
No, number 1 rule. Dead men don't pay back debts. Injured men do.
Yeah, which is what Frank says in response.
Also, Frank has an alibi.
I don't remember what it was.
I don't either. Oh, he was at the bar, and the guy at the bar can vouch for him.
Oh, but he's like, and if you'll excuse me, I have a paying customer to deal with.
You know who it is?
It's Mrs. G.
Apparently, Mrs. Guster, made a bet because she knows this really nice guy who has a cousin who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows Frank.
I told you all this before, Frank.
And Mrs. G lost all of her Christmas money.
It was her first and only bet ever.
She's like, listen, please don't tell Mr. Guster. Please don't tell anyone about my terrible vice.
It's one bet. It's hardly that. It's a lapse in judgment, if anything. And he's like, they're gonna understand. I psychically can sense that they're gonna be fine with this. Which
brings us to Christmas morning.
What is the cake she is slicing? It looks decadent.
I didn't see it.
It looked like it was covered in like toffee maple glaze. It was just like a beautiful, like sort of a bunty angel food situation. It was big. It was pretty. I don't know.
I like all of the things that you just said, so I'm in. The entire Guster family is dressed and pressed for Christmas, and Shawn, the sleepyhead, is rolling out of bed in his PJs, much like the model episode.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, Gus and Joy go to their stockings, and they're like, oh, no, not the money we insist we don't need. Where's our stocking money? Where's our stocking money?
Mom is like, I didn't have time for it. Okay, I have to give in. And she tells them about the bookie and how she lost all of the money.
And at first, Gus is shocked. And
Joy is too. She goes, you know how to find a bookie?
And then Mr. Guster goes, Winnie Guster, placing a bet?
And they all
cackle.
Every one of them is just laughing, and all is forgiven.
And then Mr. Guster confesses that he was laid off, and he doesn't want anyone to worry. He's already got some callbacks for interviews, but he, kept it from them thus far, and he's sorry.
Again, everyone's good, and they have this big group hug without Shawn.
But then Mrs. Guster says, oh, Shawn, you have to come over here. I owe it to Shawn for making me see the error of my ways and helping me trust you all with my secret.
And then we find out that the same thing happened with Dad, which led Joy...
we love Shawn.
Joy decided it was time for a confession.
No, it's not Joy. We don't have anything to share, Joy.
We had a romantic tryst 10 years ago. Just a little something.
And with your blessing, we'd like to pick up where we left off.
No, there'll be none of that. They are all super mad at Shawn to the point where Mrs. Guster goes, my mistake wasn't that bad.
And then Mr. Guster instantly goes, was that a dig at me about how bad mine was? Because that's ridiculous. Yours was hideous, and God don't like ugly.
Gus is super upset that everybody in the entire family has been lying to him this whole time.
Oh, poor Gus, blah, blah, blah. And then everyone stomps off, everyone's mad, everybody splits up, and then Shawn has ruined Christmas.
What a surprise. We're at Henry's, and Henry's getting shrimp.
He's being yelled at to get shrimp by a bunch of rowdy people we do not see.
Shawn comes in, tells them that he ruined Christmas for the Gusters, and ends up telling Henry about his pseudo tryst with Joy.
And then... oh, so Henry says, of course he overreacted. Partners, it's like sacred, and that kind of betrayal can be so bad, and you get so mad that things can get ugly.
He said, when you find out that you've been lied to by your partner, it gets ugly. And that triggers something in Shawn's brain. A memory back to when Santa Carl was in interrogation and said that they had been working a long con together and that they were never violent.
Yeah, and they scammed people all up and down the coast.
There must be another partner.
So, we're at the SBPD with Jules, and Shawn is so sorry to pull her away from her family on Christmas.
Shawn admits to her about his love affair with Joy from 10 years ago.
Okay, so I have this rapid fire. Are you ready?
I'll do it.
Okay, so she says, ew, and Shawn is like, whoa, don't worry, this is so far before I met you, and she's like, why would that matter? And he said, it might, and she says, it doesn't, and he says, it could, and she says, it won't. Anyways...
They're still looking for information, and they do find that Carl was involved in an armed robbery 10 years ago, and Ted and Carl flipped on their third partner for some reason, and they realized that this guy, their third partner, was the guy who got knocked unconscious at the brawl at Santa's Village in the mall at Syracuse.
It was 10 years ago. They turned states on the guy. His name was Moncrief Johnson. She says, and pop culture reference here, she says, I thought that was the name of the black quarterback that replaced Woody Harrelson in Wildcats. But, which if you've never seen Wildcats, it's amazing. It's a Woody Harrelson I want to say Wesley Snipes and Goldie Hawn movie.
Really? That sounds like a movie I would enjoy. I should probably look that up.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Dope. So then she says, no, that's the guy who got assaulted and sent to the hospital. And the day he was released from the hospital is the day that Ted's body was found.
Shawn's like, you go tell Lassie, I'll go warn Carl. Let's go.
The next thing we see is an apartment building, and Santa is milling around the apartment.
In comes sneaking a guy who's ready to stab Santa at the fridge, and
Lassie pulls that gun on him
as
Santa. And then the guy's surrounded.
Line.
He gets arrested. Oh, what's the line?
I think you made the naughty list.
Oh, God. No wonder I didn't write it down. I just wrote, yay, Carl is saved. Britt hugs Shawn. And Jules is so touched.
Swipes his wallet. Yeah,
Jules is so touched, and then he's like, give it back.
Juliet takes Brittany away, and Shawn gives Carl some I'm going to call it Henry advice.
Yeah, it's a little bit of tough love, good wisdom.
He's not a dad because he thinks children are sticky.
True.
But ultimately, the wisdom is, Brittany is a smart kid, and you are teaching her some habits that are probably not good habits for her to have the rest of your life. You might want to reconsider that.
And then Carl is like taking it to heart, and then he attempts to hug Shawn.
I'm a grown man.
And Shawn's like, yeah, sir, excuse you. But then again, he has to ask for his wallet back.
Once a con man, always a con man. Jan. Okay, so Shawn is back at the Gusters, knocking on the door, and Guster answers, laughing his head off, and immediately stops laughing when he sees Shawn.
He's wearing green argyle, and he says, and what do you want?
Shawn does this, like, half trying to maybe apology, and Gus goes, okay, you're forgiven.
Yeah, Shawn literally goes, I feel, Gus goes, good enough. So everyone is, like, so happy, like, barely able to eat their Christmas dinner, laughing at each other.
This is not the first time that the Gusters have been mad at each other, and it won't be the last. But they have a rule in the house. You can be as mad as you want, as long as you use the same amount of energy working it out. Also, it took a lot of energy for them to work out getting over Shawn and Joy's secret.
Yeah, so, you know, Shawn can be here and he's welcome in the home, but the sleeping arrangements aren't going to work out. What does he say?
You don't have to go home, but you have to get the hell out of here.
Merry Christmas! And everyone says Merry Christmas to each other.
Our final scene, because we have a Christmas tradition with Shawn and Henry. Shawn enters Henry's house.
And Henry's now alone.
All of the lodge buddies left because Henry said something about one of the buddies' wives being hippie, and then they broke into two tents. There was the hippie tent and the non-hippie tent, and it was time for them to go.
I think it was a ploy. I think he wanted everyone out of his house.
I'm sure.
So, okay, this scene makes me go, Shawn is actually psychic. How can he know all of those things? Like, it's so often, and I feel like I'm shouting, so often he's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, but there's only so much you can infer. And I know that it's like a TV show, but if someone were to get all of these details exactly right, they would not be an ordinary human. Or they would be a really, really good cheater, which we know Shawn is. Yeah, but if it's not on camera, it didn't happen. To that point, Henry pulls out a gift, and Shawn pulls out a matching one. Yeah, and then Henry's like, I knew you'd figure stuff out, so that was a decoy. And he lifts the box lid to reveal another wrapped gift. And Shawn lifts his box lid to pull out an identically wrapped gift. And he's like, ho ho ho, you think you had me, but this isn't the real one either. And then he pulls out a completely separate gift from somewhere else. And then Shawn pulls out a completely separate gift from somewhere else. Again, identical. And Henry says, if you got me the same iPhone I got you, and hands it over.
Shawn opens up his gift. It is, in fact, an iPhone. And he said, "Oh, no, Dad, I didn't buy you an iPhone. I bought you the Psych iPhone skin. But you don't
Oops.
have an iPhone.
So I guess I'll just take that.
I'll just use that for my new iPhone."
Shawn leaves the scene, and we're guessing Henry's house, and I said, wait, where's Henry's gift? I'm sad now.
In the last episode, Henry didn't get a gift. Oh no, he did. He got a snow globe.
Yeah.
In the last Christmas episode. I was thinking about the actual exchange where the gift that Henry got was the note that said what.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, where's the real gift? I wrote, poor Henry, where gift? Also, Shawn is psychic.
Okay. I don't think I can give you this one. I'll take it earlier, but I know that Shawn's a cheater, and he obviously.
But how he cheat that good? The details. Well,
he's got a key to Henry's house. He knows how he can get in. He's really, really good at finding things and sneaking, and all of the lodge buddies were there. Maybe he had a friend help him. I don't know. I feel like there's a way to do that.
Not on camera. It's not on camera. Whatever. The fight's not over. I'm not done.
Yeah, no, I'm actually coming to your camp a little bit, but this one isn't it for me.
Okay, fair.
Gotta love a Christmas episode. I love the Christmas opening credits. It's not my favorite opening credits, but I love it.
Yeah, they were really extra this year for the Christmas episode. And I mean, when people are hearing us do this, like this aired November 28th of 2008. So it was the holiday season, you know. But they're going to be listening to this in the springtime when we finally put it out. So happy re-Christmas, everyone.
Yeah.
Again.
I like that. This episode is another one of those episodes that doesn't really push the plot of the series along, but is still just, like, good. Like, it's a solid episode.
Yeah, I feel like holiday episodes are just like a given in a scripted comedy or scripted television show. Love to see it.
We did get a pineapple this episode, although we did not get Buzz.
Oh, that's true. We didn't get Buzz.
A little tiny bit of Henry, little tiny bit of Chief Vic, and a little tiny bit of Lassiter. I think we only see him in like 2 scenes.
Jules doesn't get to do that much either.
Yeah. But the story is truly about Christmas joy.
Joy, only here for Christmas, and she wants to mac on Shawn.
Yep. Again, don't blame her, but I don't think we see Joy again, though.
Yeah, I don't recall.
They make a big point to point out that she's rarely around, so.
Yeah.
So, oh wait, do we have anything else to talk about?
I don't. No, we got a lot of fist bumps, we got a lot of what?
Love it. I'm Alexis. You know I can't handle it when a grown man cries. I'm a sympathetic crier.
And I'm Kaylee. We just saved Christmas. What?
And this has been
To the Blueberry! Psych up.